Now that I've transferred my drawing to the cardboard, it's time to cut. So you'll need a scissor, and you may also need some extra scraps cardboard if you're cutting other pieces to put on top. So remember, we're working on a relief sculpture, which means that you're going to have pieces that are raised up from the body of the design, whether it's a fish, a jellyfish, a piece of coral, you want some raised pieces. So to cut through cardboard, it can be a little bit difficult with scissors. You want to try to do your best to get around the edges first, and then any details inside, that's where you may need to use an X-Acto knife or a utility blade. But to save yourself some time and frustration, cut out the edges first and then worry about going along the details. My jellyfish here is not too much of an intricate shape on the top, so I can go and start cutting along the edges. As you get to curves in cardboard, sometimes it's hard to curve around, so instead you can flip your image and cut from the other direction. So cutting from both directions makes it a little bit easier to cut along a curve. So I would highly recommend turning your cardboard as you go, working from one direction and then going from the other direction. So over here, I'm going to cut on this side, go down along the curve. And when it starts to get difficult to cut into the other side, I'm just going to turn my cardboard in the other direction and cut from this angle. I'm really not using a lot of pressure with my hand right now. I don't have super strong hands. I am cutting through kind of thick cardboard, but I'm making simple cuts because I'm going from one direction, cutting a straight line, and then from another direction and cutting it off. And then when I get down to all the tentacles of the jellyfish, this is where it might get a little complicated. So I'm going to use that technique of cutting from one direction and the other a lot more. So anytime there's a curve, if you cut from one direction and then go from the other direction, you can cut pieces out at a time. And then if you are trying to make it rounded, you can go back and either with an X-Acto knife or a box cutter, get those details in. Since we are working as a class, we don't want everyone to be using X-Acto knives just for safety, so I'm going to encourage you to do as much as possible with your scissors, and if you're not using this technique, it is going to be harder for yourself. So again, cut from one direction, then turn it, and you should be able to round your edges by doing that on both directions. So I just cut that one side of the tentacle. Now I'll turn this way and start to come from this direction and cut inside. And it might be hard to get all the way up into the top of that tentacle, so I'm going to cut away the excess first. This is a general rule when cutting anything. You want to get rid of the excess before you worry about the refined edge. So don't worry about the exact shape, just get rid of the excess cardboard, get it out of your way. You may need to pull it off. And sometimes you do need to give your hand a little break if you've been cutting for a while and you're not really getting in there. Just do the big areas first. So I'm going to do that to all of my tentacles. And you are going to paint over this, so if you're not following your lines exactly, but it looks like the general shape of your creature, then that's okay, because no one's going to see your pencil lines when you finish with this. And you can bend the cardboard too to get in there a little bit easier. Some types of cardboard, the thinner cardboard, is also a little bit easier to cut. So now that I've done the first one, I've cut from both sections. I'll peel that off and show you. I've got one little tentacle here, and I'll start cutting into these ones, and that will be the base of my jellyfish. I'm gonna speed this up, finish this, and come back and show you what I do next. Now that I've got the body of my jellyfish cut out, I'm gonna start cutting out the pieces that will go on top as part of my relief sculpture. So again, you can use cardboard or any recycled materials. The fins of this fish were made of plastic bottles that I cut and painted, and I encourage you to try to use as much as you can to build it up and make it really interesting. So I used a water bottle to create a tentacle type shape out of a plastic bottle that I'm going to attach to this jellyfish and paint it when it's ready. And I'm going to show you how to do that here. So first you want to cut the top of a water bottle off. To do that, if you poke a hole in the water bottle with your scissor, then you can just cut it right off. And save this, because this would be great for someone else to use, maybe as an eye for a fish, or a dot if you're making a polka dotted jellyfish. And then what you do is you start cutting along the line of the water bottle, but you're not going to cut a ring out. You want to go down and keep cutting like you're cutting a ribbon. So I'm cutting in a circle, and then I'm going to angle my scissor down so I don't cut this ring off and I go to the next ring. I'm going to follow this line along the water bottle, the ring of the water bottle here. I'm going to be very careful that I don't cut it off completely. When I get to the end or close to the end, I'm going to then angle down and go to the next line on the water bottle. I'll just keep doing that. Keep following the lines and angle your scissor down so you don't cut it off completely. Make sure your water bottle is clean and dry so you're not getting water on your scissors and making it all slippery and hard to cut. Okay, so I've got two here. I'll do a couple more, and I'm planning to attach them between the cardboard tentacles. So I've got lots of little tentacles, different sizes coming down from the jellyfish. And once I'm done with that, I'll also put some things on top. I'm going to speed this up now and do some more relief details and show you when I'm done. Okay, so now I've cut lots of relief details, little polka dotted jellyfish here with some of the stripes on the body, as well as plastic rings for the tentacles. And when you're doing these relief sculptures, the more you add, the more interesting it'll look. I would love to see you do as much as you can to raise it up besides just the body. And if you notice, I used all of my scraps from my board that I had for my jellyfish. So make sure you use your scraps, and then when you're done, we're going to glue these all down. It may take you a whole class period to cut everything out, and you may not have time to glue it all down. So we're gonna save these in envelopes or folders so that you can go back to it and then rearrange them. So your plan, your sketch is really important so you know where to put everything. But at this point, I'm gonna take it all and put it in my portfolio and save it for next time. So I will come back and see you guys when we're ready to paint.